Hi, I'm Marty Schupak for Schupak Sports, and today the episode is about T-ball drills for 4 years old. I've gotten a number of emails because I've been focusing on team T-ball drills in our local league here. T-ball is actually starts for 5 and 6 years old. I know there are places around the country where it can start as low as 4 years old, which I think is fairly young, too young, and go all the way up to 7 years old. I'm going to focus on the 4 year old age, and I'm also going to assume that you're a mother or father that's very enthusiastic with your son or daughter to start playing baseball or football. I'm sorry, or baseball or softball. Get excited for the football season coming up. But anyway, I just want to go over a couple of things and then I'm going to show you a number of drills. Keep in mind for 4-year old kids, the attention span could vary, but it could go anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. You want to have a number of drills, and if you're doing this in your backyard, you don't have to do it too long. You could do it for 15 minutes up to like a half hour. You could squeeze out some more minutes if you want. It's up to you. Remember that the kids this age, I really feel the gains to be involved in organized sports is very limited. So if they're 4 years old, it's up to you. You're the parent. You make the choice what's available in your town, in the recreation department. But I'd be a little concerned if it's highly regimental for kids 4 years old. I know some towns have something like 4-and-4 soccer, which is fine. Soccer is what they call a low skill drill when they do something like that. Remember this though, when you're working with your kid, or even if you're coaching T-ball, and T-ball a lot of times is the first organized uh, team concept for many. And I've spoken about this before. And remember that there are two types of fear. There's a fear of being embarrassed amongst your peers, and there's a fear of a player getting hurt. If you overcome those two fears, the child will really blossom. So keep that in mind. Also, when you're working with your 4 year old or even younger, 3 year old in your backyard or in a courtyard, if you live in a city, in an apartment building, remember that for young kids, there are absolutely no style points. Don't be overly concerned about the technique that your son or daughter uses. It doesn't matter. Case in point, I've given this example before. I was up at my daughter's house. She lives up in Connecticut, and she took out a tee for my grandson, who was like 3 and a half. And I started putting the balls on the tee, and he started hitting it, and he started doing pretty good. And my daughter said to me, "Dad, he's holding it from the wrong end." And I'll show you right now. We were using a wiffle ball bat. I was going to show this later for one of the drills, but he was holding it on the sweet part of the bat and hitting it with the handle. But what I said to my daughter is, you know what? He's hitting the ball, leave him alone. Be concerned about the activity, not so much concerned about the exact type of skill he's doing, whether it's right or wrong, whether his knuckles are aligned. There's plenty of time for that if your child's 4 years old. Trust me on that. So remember, there are no style points when working with your 3 or 4 year old, okay? Couple of tips, and we'll get to some specific drills. Um, you want to have, and I mentioned when they get involved in team sport, low skill team sports like a soccer, you want to have a variety of fun drills to do also. And make sure you keep it fun. And what I like to say is, three things. If you're doing activities and sports in your backyard, keep it curious, keep it imaginative, and keep it silly. You're going to have plenty of time if you're as competitive as me, where you're going to be screaming and yelling, and your team is going to be a competitive situation. But there's a time and a place for that. You have a number of years before you get to that competitive zone, whether it's baseball or softball. And then I'm telling you, when you're there, remember what I'm telling you. You're going to say to yourself, and I'm telling you, remember those days when you were involved in T-ball or before that, how relaxing it was. Okay, let's get to some drills. Before we do the drills, I just want to mention also, make sure you give your kids some imagination time. You could put out 5 balls in the backyard and say to your son and daughter, just put them out and say, okay, what do you want to do with these? They might kick them, they might roll them, they might pick it up and throw them. Hopefully it's not against the glass in your house. But we're missing a lot of unregimental time for kids. All right, there's a fine line between organized sports and unorganized sports. And I know it's tougher now as parents because we always want to watch our kids almost 24 hours a day, especially when they're very young. But it's important for them to have that imagination, creative time. And when they're doing these creative things with their peers, and I'm not talking about 3 or 4 years old, when they get a little older too, what's important if they choose up sides for a game of wiffle ball, it's so important in the socialization of your kids that they have a conflict resolution where they're able to solve problems between themselves, between individuals, and between teams. And when I was young, we used to solve problems by doing 1, 2, 3, shoot. One's for odds, 2's for evens. And that's how we resolved a lot of problems. Okay, let's get to some of the drills. All right. Again, these are for 3 and 4-year-olds, very young kids. You're as overzealous as me as a parent that loves sports, loves baseball or softball, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you put it in perspective and you don't want to overdo it. I'll hold this up close. This is what I call the multiple object throw. What I'm doing here is I'm taking a bucket. Now this is showing multiple players. If you're doing this backyard, they're just going to be like your son or daughter. And what I did was I took a little plastic bucket. Again, plastic bucket could cost you like $2. And I put different items in there. I put like a tennis ball, a pickleball. I put a ball of yarn. I put a beanbag. I'd put a lot of different things, and I'd have my son and my daughter at the time just toss it into space. Now, you have to have a lot of room. You don't want to have other kids around. This is just getting them used to throwing different items, okay? It's kind of a familiarity drill, getting them used to throwing different items. All right, that's one drill. Another drill is the over-under drill, but I'm going to tell you, do it differently, okay? What I want you, this drill is really for a team drill of 5 and 6-year-olds where we put a blue tape on a fence and the coach yells out over, under, and the kids are spread apart. If he yells over, they have to throw it over the blue tape. He yells under, they got to throw it under the tape. Forget the tape. With your 3 or 4-year-old, okay, I would take a bucket of soft covered balls or wiffle balls or pickle balls, and I would go against a wall or against your house if it's safe or against a screen, and I would just tell them to throw it against the fence. That's it. Keep throwing against the fence. All right, you'll see a lot of throws will go one way, a lot of throws will go another way. And this is happening for another reason. And if you have a chance, search out the Schupak Sports YouTube channel. I have a session on throwing with really young kids, and this is below 5 or 6. they have a tendency to move ahead a lot when they're throwing. That's why a lot of times young kids, you see throws going wild. If you could get them to steady their head, it'll help solve the problem of throwing wildly. And what I have T-ball coaches do, 5 or 6, if they're throwing into space, I have them put out little cones for kids to focus on. Chances are they have no chance of hitting that cone, but the fact that they're focusing on a target will help them steady their head. All right. So this is the over-under throw and dribble. What you want to do with your 3, 4-year-old, just have them throw it, the ball, and hit the fence. Okay. Moving along now. And again, one thing is I tell people, try not to spend money. Look around the house, see what you could use. Go up to the attic, go into the basement. This is what I call the plastic bag reaction drill. Okay? What I'm doing is, and in our area, they're really not giving you plastic bags at the grocery store. But there are different items you could use. The concept is to hold the plastic bag, like crunch it up, and then let go and have them try to catch it. They're going to look up and they're going to cup their hands, which is fine. If at first they can't catch it, tell them just try to swallow it away as it comes down. Now, if you don't have a plastic bag, I'm a big believer in rolling up newspapers. Now, newspapers, they're going by way of the dinosaur too. A lot of places it's hard to get newspapers. But the point is, if you remember at the beginning, I said one of the 2 fears is getting hurt. The more non-threatening items you could use, the better off it is for your kid, your own son or daughter, or for your team if you coach it. All right? Okay. And by the way, any drill I show you, if you could do it better, or if you could create your own drill, by all means do it. All right? There's no law says that you can't create your own drill. This drill is a knockdown fielding drill. It's a little bit similar to one of the other drills. All right? And what I'm doing is I'm taking different items, putting them in a bucket, and they're mostly soft covered. You could do this inside using a pair of socks rolled up. And you want to throw it to one side, the center, and the other side. And you want to have your son and daughter just make contact and swat it down. Okay? When you do this, it's important. You want to try to have your son or daughter have their fingers up. All right? Especially when they get to be 5 or 6. If they're really young, again, don't put an emphasis on it. Remember, we don't want to put an emphasis on style points. If they have to put their hands down, it's fine. Just have them swat it away. And we're working on their eye-hand coordination. This is a great drill, the knockdown fielding drill. And moving on, and then listen, I'm going to show you mostly fielding. And now we're going to get to hitting. I did this with my 3 kids. This is what you might have seen it before. This is what I call the bubble hit. And what I did was I took a container of bubbles and, excuse me, I took a big red plastic bat. If you don't have a bat like this, get one. They come in very handy. And again, because they're fat, we're putting the players in a position to succeed. Okay? I would blow bubbles and then have my son and daughter try to swing and hit the bubbles and break them. Okay? When you're doing this, though, you have to blow bubbles. You have to back up as you're blowing them. Try to get down low because the bubbles rise. They love this. You'll do it for like 2 or 3 minutes. You're going to be exhausted, but it's called the bubble hit drill. It's a great drill. This is a simple drill, again, for 3 or 4-year-olds. It's called hit the tape. I used a tee and I put 3 different colors of painter's tape. okay? So if it's red, blue, or yellow, and I'd say to my son or daughter, hit the yellow tape. Then I'd say, hit the blue tape, hit the red tape. Excuse me. This is like a 2-minute drill, but very important. Use one of these plastic wiffle ball bats, and I'll tell you why. If you don't have a tee, you could do this around a tree. Put tape around a tree. One, or actually 2 or 3 sets of different colored tape. But you don't want them to hit it with an aluminum bat or wooden bat because there's a lot of back sting, okay? But you could do it against a tree with a plastic bat. I've done it, it works very well. So that's hit the tape drill. All right, moving along. This is a real good drill. It's so simple. And I've done this too for 3 and 4-year-olds. It's called the bounce ball hit. And what you're doing is you're rolling a kickball, and with a bat, your son or daughter just has to hit it. And naturally, if you roll it, they'll probably hit it. Again, no style points. It doesn't matter how they're holding the bat. They're doing the activity. So those are the drills. We're going to close this out. And listen, all of you that's subscribed to Schupak Sports on the YouTube channel, I want to really thank you. I appreciate it. I want to keep this free format going. So I appreciate all of you that have subscribed. Keep in mind when you're dealing with the young kids, though, they change physically, emotionally, and with motor skills from year to year. If you're coaching T-ball, I just want to let you know that you're going to have some 5-year-olds that have better motor skills than 6-year-olds. It doesn't mean that the 6-year-olds will never be a good baseball or softball player or excel in another sport. Kids progress at different paces. We've all seen kids that play ball or try to play basketball, then all of a sudden in high school, they shoot up 3, 4, 5 inches. What you want to do if you do coach T-ball, and as a parent, first of all, you want to calm down. Don't get over emotional, overreactionary. Very normal that kids progress at different paces. If you're coaching T-ball, though, you want to, if you have a parents meeting, you should have a parents meeting. You want to bring this out to the parents because some parents get very sensitive. Imagine a parent that has a 6-year-old and the 5-year-old neighbor lives next door and they're on the same T-ball team. Somehow they worked it out. But the 5-year-old seems more progressed in coordination, in throwing, and in catching. Some of the parents of the 6-year-olds will feel very sensitive and they really take it to heart and they'll say, you know, what's wrong with my son? What's wrong with my daughter? No, no, no. Your son and daughter are fine. Don't worry. They're going to be fine. Are they going to be an Olympic sprinter? Probably not. Are they going to play center field for the New York Yankees? Probably not. They'll be fine. They're just progressing at a different pace. We're going to close this out. Again, if you can subscribe, I appreciate it. This has been Marty Schupak for Schupak Sports.